Hello everyone and welcome back. This is our part 2 of reacting to Chairman Khaldoon's end of season review. If you haven't seen our part 1, make sure to check it out. I'll link it in the bio below, so go click on that. But while you're here, sit back, relax, and let's see what our chairman's going to say about our club moving forward. Let's jump in. Now, I've not seen this. I'm watching it for the first time, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got to say. Let's hear it.
We come to women's football, a remarkable season in many ways for our Manchester City's women's team. Started off quite poorly, were languishing mid-table, and then went on a run of I think 13 wins that captured the League Cup, got to an FA Cup final, qualified for the Champions League next season. That was quite a turnaround and quite a compliment to the people running that team within the business, that they turned it around so well.
Well, it was a season of two halves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch much women's football, of course, but I mean, the City women's team, you know, they're just like the men's. They try and play like them, and they're driven by success as well. And in general, they tend to get it. I know at the beginning of the season, it was looking pretty rough. I think they'd lost quite a few games in a row, and like you said there, before they went on that winning run, you know, it looked down and out, but they pulled it together and they got their win streak. And I watched the cup finals as well, and I thought the first cup they deserved to win. The FA Cup final, I thought they run out of steam at the end. You know, it looked like a long season, and Chelsea just had that extra bit of quality going into extra time, and City just couldn't keep up with them. But I mean, Chelsea are a solid team, so no complaints there. I mean, Chelsea are competing for the Champions League as well, and City are not quite there yet. But City did make the Champions League qualifications, I believe, at the end. So well played to the team. And like I said, you know, I mean, women's football's on the up. It's good to see. You know, I followed a lot of women's football in the 90s, and when there weren't many women's teams around, so watching City continue that from the 90s through the 2000s and even now, you know, they've been almost pioneers in that sense. And what I will say about the club as well, that the way they advertise the women's team, where they always advertise them alongside the men's. So if they're advertising a men's season ticket, on the other half of the page, you got the women's season ticket as well. I kind of like that. I think that's really good business practice. And I think it says a lot about the club, and that they're dedicated and determined to push all areas, not just the men's first team, and not just going for success in that sense. You know, that they're going for success throughout the whole organisation.
And the first half, certainly I think they had a lot of injuries. They had a lot of challenges that the team had to deal with and weather through. But I think they finished off very well. The second half of the season was tremendous. And it's, I think, big credit to the coaching staff, the players. Our women's team continues to be a very competitive, high-quality team that goes, you know, year in, year out, competitive, high quality, high standards. And, you know, I think if you look at the women's game, the way it's evolving, not just in England, but I think all over the world, it is certainly growing from strength to strength.
The one thing about the women's games that I've noticed as well, the crowds are getting bigger, which is nice. And I think the clubs, you know, putting their women's teams in their first team stadiums, you know, like playing at the Etihad or Old Trafford, I think it's massive for the game. And again, I think it says a lot where women's football is going. I mean, is it on the level of men's football? Of course not. But in other countries, you know, you look at Barcelona, you look at Lyon, you look at the American women's team, there's a lot of pride there, and they're getting big fan bases and cult followings almost too. And if you look at the crowds, they're swelling in numbers, and it's mostly women and children. You know, of course men go too, but it is mostly women and children. And again, that can only be good for the sport going forward as well. As you know, can they compete with men's football? I mean, maybe one day, but I can't see it in the near future. But it's definitely growing, and it's definitely getting bigger.
You look at attendance, some of the attendance figures since the World Cup, and particularly you look at some of the games this year. So the women's game, I think more than ever, is coming together. It's coming strong. Its popularity is growing, and it, you know, confirms our convictions from the beginning of why we decided as a group to invest in the women's game, and how we've continuously backed it, because it comes with a belief and a conviction that the women's game will be part of you know, the future of football in a very, very real way. We don't look at this as women's football or men's football or youth football. We look at this as football.
I think he's right when he says that, because like I said before, when they advertise the men's team, they always advertise the women's team, and you know, they see it as kind of an organization thing. It's not split into gender. It's not split into age groups. Everyone plays the same. Everyone has to, dress smartly. Everyone has to represent well. And yeah, they really are dedicated to doing that. And like you said, women's football's come on massively. I used to go and watch women's football in the 90s. I used to go away and watch it in the cold and stuff like that. I watched it every week. So I know how far women's football has come. And it's crazy to think in just, 20 years, how far it has gone. And the club deserve a lot of credit as well for the way they treat their women's team and, for the money they pump into it and the support they give all the players and the backroom staff and the dedication to not, like I said, not treating them as a different sport. It's just one football team. That's what City is, just one football team.
And football as a sport, in all its aspects, is a growing sport that we see in a very positive way going forward.
I mean, we're talking about Manchester City women, and we say goodbye to. We talked about the legends with Fernandinho. We say goodbye to, but on the women's side, in Manchester, Karen Bardsley and Jill Scott have both left the club, and in their ways have been equally important for the women's team as Fernandinho was to the men's.
They are indeed. I think both Karen and Jill have given immense contribution to our women's team over the years from the beginning. They are considered legends in this, young history of our women's team. So it's a big loss for us, but we thank them for what they've given to the women's game and to Manchester City's women's team, and wish them all the best in the future. And they will always have a place with us, and hopefully we'll be able to always remember them in the way that they've performed so uniquely for this club.
If I can go off.
A couple of those players that you mentioned, like the two that have left the club, like I said, you look at the American women's team and you look at some of the older players that have been at City for years, like Steph Alton, players like that. They've really pushed the sport forward, and they deserve a lot of praise and they deserve a lot of acknowledgement for how well they've done and just what they've done for the women's game. Like I said, they're legends, and rightly so.
Off the pitch for a while though, and turn the clock back. The pandemic struck the world. It hit football as hard as any other business.
That looked uncomfortable.
You said to me a year ago we were taking a 2-year view of trying to get the finances and income back in line. How has that gone? How has the club fared over the last 2 years financially?
We've done very well, in the sense that COVID was an anomaly, a very challenging black swan event that put an incredible challenge on the whole world, from a personal perspective, but obviously also from a professional perspective. I think anyone you're speaking to in the world would have talked about that. When we looked at how the pandemic is going to affect football and what is the impact it's going to have on football in general, the Premier League, and then obviously Manchester City. Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult. We had to manage through and weather through a lot of challenges.
Let's just take a moment as well to realise that, the pandemic was hard on a lot of people, and, many people struggled through. And football carried on, of course, and there'll be some criticism about that. But when you look at it, the way the Premier League got restarted, or football in general got restarted, and they're dedicated to still playing, and it wasn't the same as watching football in the stadium. When you're watching at home without any fans there, it wasn't quite the same. But they still tried the best, and the players too. It couldn't have been easy for the players. They've got home lives as well, and I'm sure they had things going on, and people struggling with COVID themselves that they knew, but they still got on with it, and they still put on a performance. And fair play to the Premier League, fair play to the players, and fair play to everyone that took part and participated in that.
Losing obviously the revenue from match team and to the organization was, we have to work towards ensuring that we weather through this storm and that we come out stronger. And I think I'm delighted to say that we've weathered through it and we have come out stronger. Today, I think our revenue, you've seen the figures for last year, 19% up year on year. Of course, broadcasting revenue has been improved with us winning the league last year and making the Champions League final. But also, I think on the commercial side, we've done some great things, great new partners all over the world. I expect us to continue to grow.
Commercially, we are growing massive as well. I mean, if you look at last season, we posted better figures than United for the first time ever, which is huge. And I know you can say there's a match day revenue because of COVID and things that affects it. And of course it did, but at the end of the day, the way this club, like I said, managed the situation, and we're on up 19% on revenue year on year and things like that. This club just goes from strength to strength, and Khaldoon and his staff and the people around him, massive credit to them, because this club, honestly, I can't remember the last time this club did anything wrong, for me anyway. I mean, you can argue about financial fair play or the money spent here and plays wasted maybe, but the back room and the way they run the club and the way they invest in it and the way they've treated it throughout the last 12 years of ownership, been phenomenal. Honestly, it's been incredible.
And go from strength to strength, and the pandemic is hopefully now behind us.
I can see you're excited by the new shirt. I know your young daughter's been wearing one just this week. So it's captured the public imagination because it's got that nod to the past and the great City player of the past, Colin Bell, who's commemorated within the shirt. But it's a beautiful shirt. I mean, how do you compare it to other shirts? I mean, maybe that's not fair, but
no. One of the things I enjoy most about this job is that final decision making on the kits. There's many things about this that you like, and some things you enjoy, some things you don't. But believe me, that part I really enjoy. Over the last 14 years, dealing, when the teams come with the final recommendations on the kits, it's really something I really look forward towards. But I will say, with Puma, they have been quite incredible in the way they've approached each season, each kit. And you look at what they've done with this particular kit, I assure you, when they showed it to me for the first time, I knew this was going to be a home run.
It's interesting because I'm not really sure I like it. I don't really know how I feel about it. I'm going to buy it, of course, buy every home shirt. But, it's also interesting to hear about the way the kit is and the decisions behind it, because you never really hear about the person in charge of making the kit or the final say on the kit. So it's actually quite nice to hear a little bit different, and it's good to hear him excited about having the final decision, in deciding on the kit or not. I like that.
It's the history that this brings back, the colors, the crest back in the center, the homage to the 60s and 70s, and of course Colin Bell at this time, the timing, and having that special connection to the king. I knew it. This was going to be a big hit, and clearly now we all know right now it is the best kit we've ever had from a sales perspective.
Best kit they've ever had sales perspective. That's quite interesting to hear. Like I said, I'm going to buy it, but maybe I'll think differently when I'm wearing it and kind of get the feel of it a little bit. But yeah, it's nice to acknowledge former players, and I like that we do it with kits as well. I know in the past we've done things like have Blue Moon, the song in the kit woven into it and things like that. And we had 9320, I think, last season's kit. But it is good that we pay homage to old players, and that this board and our current owners recognise that the history of the club is huge to the fan base, and it's such a big deal. So I like that.
So recently we've unveiled a statue of Sergio Aguero to stand alongside those of Vincent Kompany and David Silva in front of the East Stand. But I think you might have some more news for City fans about other plans for statues.
Yes, of course. So over the last couple of years, we've had the statues of Vincent Kompany, David Silva, and Sergio Aguero. And these three represented the most successful era in the history of this club. But there are other very successful eras, and I think remembering Colin Bell, Francis Lee, Mike Summerby is very important. This club has a great history. These are players that have contributed immensely to this club. And
it's crazy how much Mike Summerby looked like Nicky there. Absolutely crazy. I remember Nicky looking like that when he played for us in the 90s.
And have earned. I think the fans can all agree with me on this. Have earned the right to be appreciated for forever, eternally, with statues. So we've started the work now, commissioning a work that I think, I won't say too much right now until it's done, but what I will say is these three legends will be properly respected and represented with a work of art that all the fans of this club will be able to see.
This summer also includes a trip to the United States. Summer tours are back on, 2 iconic sporting venues away. How important is that, and how excited are you by that?
Well, it's great after 3 years of COVID to go back to some form of normality. The human interaction of going back and having a proper preseason, the ability to have a preseason without any other competition, so really having the whole group together.
I think that's the one thing the last couple of years, our pre-season has been really poor. I mean, you can say we've had a couple of poor starts to the seasons, but you look at the pre-season we had last year, the Champions League final, and everything was delayed because of COVID and pushed back. It was a really tough pre-season, and we didn't really get one. And you can see that in the Community Shield performance. You can see that in performance against Tottenham and a few of our early games as well. I mean, I think we did really well just to keep up with Liverpool and Chelsea at the beginning of last season. I know we dropped off a bit, but we did really well just to keep up with them as well as we did. And this season, I'm looking forward to the players actually, like you said, getting back to some normality and seeing where we start next season, because I want to see us start strong. I really do want to see us start strong.
I think it's a great opportunity. Going back to the United States, obviously one of the most important markets in the world, a market or a place that has a huge Manchester City fan base. I know Pep and the team are really excited about going back, having a proper preseason, interacting with the fans, being and playing in 2 of the most iconic stadiums in the United States. A lot of history that comes with that. But also, I think, just talking about the interactive side of it, it's amazing what's happened on the social media side of it, of the club. Really, if you look at year on year, our fan base, our followers, the level of activity we're having between the club, the fans, the interactions has gone up. It shows you, I think we are going in the right direction.
And just a point on the social media as well, you see like other City fan channels, not me of course, but you see other fan channels that have been going for a while, like you saw Esteemed Company in them videos, when it seems to be everywhere at the moment. But that's a part on the club as well, because they've brought in these people who, they don't have 1 million subscribers themselves. They have less than 100,000, the social media people, the City fan channels, but they bring them into the club and they give them a stage and they give them a platform to talk on, and they invite them to the bus parade and things like that. And that's massive for this club, because if you look at other fan channels and other teams, it's not always the case. They don't always get the respect from the club, but City give the respect out and that they promote them, and I think that's quite huge. And I think that's, again, it says a lot about how they see themselves as working the community, because it's not just about working with the youth teams and the women's teams and the men's teams. It's all about giving back to your local community, and the social media side of thing and helping fan channels is a part of that community service. And, the club are, pioneers again in that sense.
And I think the content that's coming out of this club is great content that we're getting in immense interface with our fans and our supporters all over the world.
We talked about Manchester City a lot, but the group's CFG is becoming huge. And at one point last year, I think Manchester, Melbourne, Mumbai, New York were all champions in their country. I mean, if that's not proof positive of the way the group is set up, I don't know what is.
New York City had one of the most exciting seasons in MLS. And then this year, we are close to the top, and we continue to go from strength to strength in that.
I always love the fact that they've all got wearing the same colours, and the kits are always quite similar. I do like that. You know, it's just one unified club, regardless of the name.
In that league, in Australia, we've done the same, similar league.
But again, just to touch on the social media side of things, like when he's saying that the reach they're making, it's not just Manchester City fans. You got to think, like I said, Mumbai City, Melbourne City, New York City, all those fan bases. Well, the fan channels from them and all them supporters, they're going to watch Manchester City because of them clubs. It just shares the, you know, it shares the support out, and it's huge. You know, you don't see them as separate teams because they're not. You know, the way everyone's going to be watching each other, cheering on each other's success. I cheer on New York City, even though I've never watched them or been there. You know, I want to see them win things. Same with Melbourne, same with Mumbai. And it's going to be the same for their supporters. They're going to want us to succeed because we're part of the organisation.
League, similar league structure, similar constraints. And again, as an organisation, we were able to put a wonderful team together. We won the league last year, and we're there again. And in India, again, similar system. We Mumbai City won the league for the first time, and we're delighted with that team, and delighted with how, in a very short span, we were able to support that team to get it to win the league for the first time in its history. So, you know, but the success is also across the board. I mean, you look at the success with Troyes, going from the second division in France to Liga, and then this year again staying in Liga, and over the whole season being very competitive, and that was really the target of Troyes. You know, first target was to go to Liga, and then the second target was to stay and be competitive within Liga, and they've done that. So you see that, and you see that in every team that we are part of. We have strong management, we have good coaching, great coaching, and we have results that reflect, I think, the way this group is being managed, not just in Manchester, but everywhere around the world. And our attention, while yes, of course, Manchester City being the biggest club in the group, gets a lot of the attention, but I assure you, every other club within the group gets the attention it deserves, and we're seeing the success both east and west.
In New York in particular, a club that was only formed, 8 years ago, has only been playing for 6 years, I think. I mean, that is quite a remarkable achievement. And I know it's a thorny subject with the fans there, but without a stadium.
It's not always been easy for New York City as well. I mean, if you look at it, I know they sent Vieira there to begin. I think Vieira was their first manager, if I'm right. You know, and he left them. He didn't leave them in a bad way. You know, I think he went to manage in France, didn't he, at the time, and you know, now he's over in the Premier League. But New York City, they've had an interesting rise, and you could call it meteoric, I suppose, because winning your league after just 6 years of playing in that competition is quite immense. And yeah, they've had some interesting players. I think they started off like we did when they first bought City, which was that high-profile players. Like they had David Villa, didn't they, at one point? And I think now they're kind of doing the City model, the newest way of thinking, which is a bit of young talent to go with the experience too, you know, not just putting all the money into it. It's all about making sure they got the right players with the right mentality.
Of their own as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, in New York I love the story of our involvement in MLS, because there literally we started from scratch, from absolute scratch. There was no team. So to build that team, to build that franchise, and then over the years, build an organization, and then win in MLS, which is very competitive.
And for the people who work in New York City, those that have been there, the non-football stuff, I mean, it's amazing for them as well. I mean, you know, it's the footballers, yes, and the managers that spent their whole life winning things, losing things, but for that staff to take, not necessarily a gamble, but to, you know, come into something so new, that must be fantastic for them as well.
We have a great group of individuals that are part of this club in every aspect. And I think the way the city has embraced football, soccer, as they call it in the United States, how they've embraced this team. Let's not forget, this is the only team in New York that has won its respective competition last year. And New York is one of the greatest cities in the world. It has teams in every American competition, and not just one, two, in the case of football or basketball or baseball or hockey. So it's a sports city, and with great teams. But this new franchise in New York that is, 7 years old, is now coming up and becoming, an integral part of the city and of the community in New York. And I love the way this team is evolving.
And you mentioned Stade Trois. I've got to get the pronunciation correct. You say it much better than I do. I mean, they had some fantastic results. They held PSG, I think, in one game, and they beat Lille 3-0 to the reigning champions to guarantee safety. So the future looks bright for them too.
If you look at their wage bill and how they've been able to compete in that league with that wage bill, it shows you, I think, the talent we have on the scouting side, on the coaching side, on the management side, to be able to put a team together to not just survive in the French league, but also compete and be competitive with the best teams in that competition.
A structure that we know is already in the pipeline is the new arena on the Etihad campus. What can you tell us about the progress there and any plans for the campus in general?
The arena is going to be a very important addition to our campus and the Etihad Stadium and that whole area.
I believe the arena is going to be the largest indoor arena in Europe. I might be wrong with that, but I think that's the case. I think it's going to be bigger than the MEN at least anyway. So it's going to be huge because all the big concerts are going to go there, and rather than be at the Etihad Stadium themselves, they're going to be in the arena, and it means more money, it means more sponsorship, I guess, and means, a lot more for the club, and without destroying the Etihad Stadium as it is. But yeah, it's gonna be huge for the club. I think it's going to attract a lot more people to the campus, and in that sense, you're looking at more people coming through your doors, spending more money, maybe going to the club shop as well. So there's a lot of potential there.
We've been working tirelessly over the years in building up step by step that area for the community and obviously for our fans. I am delighted with the way the arena has been developed. We have a great partnership over there. Work is, you can see it already. The structure is coming up. Once it's ready and open, I think on the entertainment side, on the sports side, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful contributor to our entire campus and to the city of Manchester and to the region, to be honest. We keep thinking about what to do next and what to do more. This is always the ethos of what we do.
And that's one of the great things about these owners. I remember when they came in, they said they were going to pump a lot of money into Manchester and they were going to build up. And if you look at the way they transformed East Manchester, and you look at the campus in general, they've got a school on there, they've got an arena in there, stadiums, the other pitches as well, the aquatic centres and things like that. Some of it came with the Commonwealth Games and stuff like that, but a lot of it's down to the club and the infrastructure and the amount of money they've pumped into it. And they've said they've done exactly what they said they were going to do, and they've really grown Manchester, and I think they're a real benefit to this city, and a lot of the reason why this city is growing as quickly as it is, and it's got as much money as it has, is because the way this group is spending. They're doing good work.
Our campus was nothing but a map with some plans many years ago, and we went, step by step through careful planning, construction, development, and build up. I'm very proud of this whole master plan that we've put together over the years, and then the execution and implementation over the years of each block within that master plan. The arena is going to be a wonderful success for the whole area.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.
So yeah, again, just to recap on a few things, the women's team's fantastic. The group in general, all the teams are playing well, and you're looking at other teams winning their competitions as well, like you said. So the fan base is growing as a global thing rather than just a local. You can't think of it just as Manchester City fans. You got to think of it as a city group fan base, and it's growing year on year out. And with this success that every other team is building, and you look at the way the women's team's growing as well, that's going to bring more fans through the door. Whether it's children or getting women into football and things like that normally wouldn't be in it. So credit to them there. They're building up their campus as always. They're always looking forward. This new arena is going to be huge, I think, for the club. It's going to bring a lot more money in and a lot more potential, like I said, with partnerships, sponsorships, merchandise, things like that. and it brings more people through the campus, which is what you want, because more people through the campus means more money potentially and possibly more fans too. And overall, the club has been great for Manchester, and yeah, quite really. And again, just to finish, it's been a great season, hasn't it? I mean, we won the league, we saved football probably in that sense. We've had a fantastic time, and so far I think we're going into our 15th year with these owners, and yeah, I mean, you can't see it stopping or slowing down, can you? You look at the transfers we brought in with Erling and Julian. I'm super excited to see them both. With the summer underway now, hopefully the players get a good rest and we can start next season well. That's what I want to see. So thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe button as always, and have yourselves a nice weekend. See you again. Bye.